Hello, everybody out there. Kind of a terrible clap, but nonetheless, here we are. So for today's video, wanted to talk about a study that was done on marriages primarily, but relationships in general, and just overall satisfaction in short-term and long-term of those relationships. Primarily marriages, but I think it kind of overarching goes all around, and just talking about conflict resolution. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we hop into the video, if you could real quick go down and... You thought I was going to say like and subscribe. No. I mean, if you want to like and subscribe, you can. But what I was going to say is if you could please share the content. The idea of the Greater Than movement is to impact 100 million people's lives positively. And the best way for that to happen is for people to see the content. So sharing people with people, whether you share with them directly, you put it, tag them in the comment box, tag them in the actual videos, that'd be awesome. Just because, again, at the end of the day, trying to impact 100 million people's lives and just improve them in one way or another. All that fun jazz. So any type of sharing would be greatly appreciated so more people can see the content. If you think someone will enjoy it, make someone's day better, improve their relationship, or if you want to send it to your partner to be like, ha, told you so, Ethan's right, then you can do that as well. It might piss them off a little bit, but conflict resolution video, good time to do it, use the skills. From there, again, don't like to say like and subscribe. Obviously, it's a great way for people to see the content, but everyone else says it, so I don't want to say it. So that's my little tidbit right there. But to hop into the actual video for today, I actually did, I don't like saying in the beginning because I'm sure it makes people be like, oh God, here we go. But, excuse me, I was reading some research studies. Done a video like this before, kind of similar, and I was really reading the study for the beginning of it, and I kind of realized how boring that was when I watched it back. I mean, I did post the video, but kind of boring, and obviously most people aren't going to care to go look up the study themselves, so if you want to find it, you can obviously kind of Google what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it out there. But for the actual video, it's talking about overall relationship satisfaction surrounding the idea of conflict resolution. So kind of to go over the studies real quick. So within the actual studies, it was showing the longer of the studies, like the longest study was 13 years. And it was showing short-term and long-term satisfaction in marriages. But again, I feel like this overarching concept really can transfer over to any type of romantic relationship, whether you're just dating or if you're married. So in the married couples, they were obviously checking their overall relationship satisfaction over the 13-year period, and they really were deep diving into conflict resolution and really seeing what was driving overall satisfaction based around the different types of things that can happen within conflict resolution. And the conclusion that they really came to was that at the end of the day, within relationships, and this sounds kind of dumb because it's so like, well, duh, the shorter the amount of conflict time or people being upset at each other or the situation, the shorter that time was, the more satisfied and happy the relationship was for both men and for women. And again, it's kind of one of those little no duh things, but obviously as you see like around your friend group or family group or maybe even your parents, some people fight and they might fight on average for a day or 2 or 3 days. Some people might fight and it might last for a couple hours and that's it. So overall, may not necessarily always fight, but like be pissed off at each other, upset, whatever it may be. The emotional level's higher up here and they're not really communicating it and resolving conflict. So obviously, again, it makes kind of a no-brainer, but it's not something we always think about. So they really showed that the relationships that had shorter amounts of time of conflict resolution, like it took less time to resolve conflict and start working towards compromising and communication basically, had happier short-term and longer-term marriages over a 13-year period. Whereas people that conflicted for longer periods of time, or were mad at each other for longer, or fighting for longer over similar things, or the same fight, or whatever it may be, or just mad at their partner, I guess. People that were mad for longer, or whatever, sad, whatever, doesn't really matter, I keep saying whatever, but that were in that mode for longer had lower levels of satisfaction in their short-term marriage and their long-term marriage over the 13-year period. So the additional thing that researchers found, and I want to disclaim this real quick because I did a video where I talked about something not similar, but like where I was really talking about gender roles and someone jumped in before they even watched the whole video and had some stupid stuff to say. So if that's you, either turn the video off now because you're going to get triggered, or watch the whole video, which is preferred, learn something new and realize that don't just take the next few sentences and be like, blah, 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 that's wrong. Listen to the whole thing. Okay, just this box disclaimer. So the study also showed that typically in marriages, women are the kind of key drivers. So if women were the typically the key drivers, so basically women or wives that were faster to resolve conflict, they kind of steered the ship for conflict resolution. And that's what they found, is that wives that were quicker to resolve conflicts in their marriages as far as time period went overall, the women, the wives, and the men, the husbands, were overall more happy in the short term and long term of the marriage. So, like, the basic level of thought was like, oh, you know, if women resolve conflicts faster with their partner, then everyone's happy. And I get this general idea, and this is, like I said, like that little disclaimer where this is where it kind of fits in, is I think it's kind of like a jumping off point. Because at the end of the day, I don't think that it truly matters whether you're a woman or a man, or however you identify yourself. At the end of the day, I think that we really need to take this study and kind of like take a step back and then really think about how it applies. Because I don't think we should say, oh, women have to start resolving conflict first, because then it kind of puts the weight on them and doesn't put any really weight on men. And I think that we have to have a little more striking balance. And I will say this, I think women are usually a little more in touch with their emotions and kind of like getting through their emotions, and so the ones that are obviously able to do that faster are going to help their male counterparts who might not be as easy to like connect with their emotions and process them. Like once they are process theirs faster, they're helping the guy process theirs and resolving the conflict. So it kind of makes sense. But what I truly do believe is that in relationships is that there's going to be relationships where that's true, where women are going to be usually typically the first person who's going to be like, you know what, I'm sorry, I want to talk about this, let's figure it out, let's compromise, let's work through this. But I think that there are other relationships, and maybe equally numbers, I honestly don't know, because the study was done in 2014, so it has been a little bit of time, so maybe things have changed a little bit. But I do believe, even without the study, even if it was done today, I would still say I think that there are a decent chunk of men who also fall into that category, who also are the first person, typically, you know, 8, 9 times out of 10, to be like, okay, honey, like I want to talk about this, I want to work through this, I want to compromise. So I think the onus is really on us in our relationships, in our marriages, whatever you want to call it, to identify the person who is the first person to go to usually resolve conflict. And this may not be all the time, but I do believe that we need to identify that person. And we also need to kind of try and be that person ourselves if we can. Like that's the ideal world where we're going to be the first person to like work through our stuff and be able to process. And I'm not saying, kind of another like little tidbit, I'm not saying that the study said, because it actually said the opposite, that we shouldn't be upset or mad at our partners or argue or fight. It actually said that those are good things, and that's important that we have those dynamics in our relationships to be able to express emotions and work through problems and be able to just express our full range of emotions. And so I'm not saying those are bad, but I am saying that sometimes, whether it's men, women, or however you identify yourself, in reality, like people are going to process things faster regardless. And so I think that we really have to do is identify who that person is in our relationships. So it's kind of like taking that study, like I said, from a 1,000-foot view, and then trying to figure out what makes the most sense in actual real world lives, not just in a case study or a field study. So figuring out who that person is. So identifying whether it's the husband, the wife, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, whatever it may be, who is the person who is usually faster to work through their emotions and come to the point in time where they're ready to sit down, have a logical conversation, compromise, and work through the problems. So figure out who that is. I think that's key, because then once you have that person established, like I'm not saying you need to kiss their butt, because that's not the case. I don't feel like that's the case in any relationship for anything. But I think that you should appreciate your partner and let them know that you do verbally appreciate the fact that they are trying to consistently, maybe not always, but consistently try and resolve conflicts and work through things faster, because that's just who they are as a person, or that's a personality, or whatever it may be. So that's like number 2. Number 3, I think the kind of key takeaway that I took, and I think this is very, very important, is that obviously, kind of like overarching, if we work through stuff faster, we're going to have happy relationships. Like that's the goal. It should be the goal in everybody's relationship, but it doesn't always work that way. If you look at, like I said, your parents or some friends or family, like some people fight forever. So like with that in mind, we have 1, 2, now number 3. With number 3, what I really think that we have to do is, once you've identified who the, number 1, the main person is who's better or faster at getting to that point in time, the other partner has to realize that there are going to be that 2 out of 10 times or 1 out of 10 times where your partner isn't going to be okay, or isn't in the right mind space, or isn't able to, like they normally do, be the person to like initiate those conversations or initiate trying to make up and make things better. And I think that if you fall into the role, and maybe if you're in a perfect world, it's 50-50 and both of you do it half the time, and that's great. But even if that's the case, there are going to be times where one person might just be a lot farther behind than they normally are, especially if you're in that 80-20, 90-10 group, which I think is probably more common. I really do believe that you have to take a step back and realize if you are the person who's not usually initiating these conversations and initiating the conflict resolution, there are times where your partner is going to be a little bit kind of maybe off, or just, like I said, not feeling it. And you have to be able to step up and rise to the occasion and kind of put your ego aside and put your partner and your relationship ahead of maybe where you're at and what you normally like to do or want to do, and step up and approach them and open up that line of conversation and really open up the communication that needs to happen for conflict resolution. And I would say in most of my adult relationships, I am the person who 80 to 90% of the time, I want to go talk to the person. I'm ready to resolve the conflict. I'm ready to compromise, work through things. And I think that, like, reading this study and kind of like really thinking about it in my life, is I've realized, like, I've never truly communicated that to somebody where I'm like, you know what, like, not like this. And that's why I think this is so helpful, is I'm thinking about, like, even in my own life, this is good advice, is telling my partner, like, there are going to be times where normally I'm coming to you all the time and trying to resolve stuff. But there are going to be times where I'm more upset, or I don't feel it, or it's just one of those off days. And I need you to be able to recognize that and be like, oh, like, normally they do, they're not, maybe they're really not okay, or they're just actually really, really upset. I need to step up. And even maybe if they're not ready to talk yet, maybe then at least I'm opening up and saying, like, hey, I'm ready. I'm trying to be here. I want to make things work. I want to resolve this, and trying to pave that road, which obviously isn't going to happen all the time. It's going to be kind of maybe like more limited, but just taking the responsibility and kind of, like I said, putting the relationship and your partner ahead of yourself, 5.2 seconds, which obviously in this day and age isn't very popular because it's all about me and me. But the idea of, you know, doing that on the occasion is a good positive thing, if not more than on the occasion, but just saying for this example, it's important. So that's kind of the general idea. It's study. Again, at the end of the day, like I said, it sounds so simple to be like, oh, you know, couples who resolve their conflict faster are more satisfied. But we don't always think about it that way. And we don't always think to identify who that person is, have the brief conversation of, hey, there are going to be times where I don't feel it, or you don't feel it, and I got to step up, or you got to step up. And really just having that open, honest communication, and just being aware that if you both can talk about this, if you share this with your partner, maybe it isn't like what I said earlier, where it's like a haha, look at this video, told you so. But just trying to connect with your partner and letting them know, like, hey, watch this video with me again, or you watch it on your lunch break, or whatever. And let's sit down and have the conversation about making it a goal to resolve our conflict faster, to work through our problems faster, and trying to realize that if we're able to do that, obviously we need to express all the emotions and all that stuff. I don't say negative because it's not negative. It needs to happen. But once we get through all that, the faster we can get through this, the faster that we can start resolving and compromising and talking about it and just working through it, the more happy we're going to be in the short term and in the long term. So hopefully the video is helpful. Hopefully you guys are able to share it with, like I said, with, like, maybe not with your friends or family, maybe with your partner, and maybe just have that conversation about conflict resolution and trying to speed it up, trying to step up for your partner, and just really having the conversation and just opening up. And maybe it opens up something else. Maybe like, if I'm thinking about grand scheme of life, maybe this is just an opening door for you and your partner to have a conversation about something else that they didn't feel comfortable talking about, that they were so upset about, or they've been holding on to, and because you brought this up, they want to resolve something else. So maybe that's like the silver lining that happens if you share the video. Who knows? I don't know. So at the end of the day, hope this video was helpful, maybe a little bit of inspiration for your relationship. So helpful, inspirational, educational, motivational, positivity, just trying to spread a little bit of light into the universe, into people's lives. Again, like I said, greater than movement, trying to help 100 million people improve their lives, small ways, big ways. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do in a bunch of different ways. So again, if you guys have any questions about this video, or if you have any questions for me about relationship, I don't know, I haven't said this for a while, so I apologize. I like to do these videos live, but recently it's been kind of a struggle, so I do apologize. So since I can't answer questions live for a little bit until I get everything worked out on, like, my streaming end again, if you have questions about relationships, family, fitness, school, college, work, whatever you have questions about, I'm not saying that I know everything in the world, but if you do ask me a question I don't know the answer, or don't have an opinion on it, maybe even politics, religion, I don't care, whatever. I don't have an answer, I don't have an opinion, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. I'm sorry, but at least I'm going to tell you. And if you do have a question and I do have an answer or an opinion or thought, I will let you know. So whether you want to DM me, Greater Than Movement, pretty much find it everywhere. You want to drop it in the comments on YouTube, however you want to ask it, they're greatly appreciated. Like I said, at the end of the day, trying to help people improve their lives in a bunch of different ways, help people be greater than, if you will. And the best way to do that is if people are reaching out and asking questions if they actually have them. So Any questions, any feedback is greatly appreciated. And again, trying to spread positivity and light, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys soon. Stay healthy, stay safe, and above all, be greater than, guys. Have a great night. Bye.